Hare Krishna. Welcome to my Radha Madhav channel. This is Sindhu here. Today I'm going to be talking about a very inspiring topic of discussion. Why Bhakti Yoga is the best. We are going to see that today. Let me start with a small prayer and then introduction. Nama Om Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyabhati Pashatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. A brief introduction to the Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion. And start with a small verse from chapter 12, text 2. Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopeta Ste Me Yukta Tamamataha. I repeat. Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yukta Tamamatihi. This is a very beautiful starting verse in this chapter by Lord Shri Krishna to Arjuna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Those who fix their minds on me and only dwell in my thoughts, who sing my glories with love and devotion, and who have complete faith in me are always the best." Haribol. In the above verse, Lord Shri Krishna answers the Arjuna's question in the Bhagavad Gita on who is an ideal yogi. One who is in complete union with the divine is the ideal yogi. So it's verily the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Now, what is this Bhakti Yoga? See, Bhakti Yoga, it's actually a Sanskrit word. Yoga means union. The only English word that can do justice to the word Bhakti is perhaps love, universal love or divine love. Bhakti is not what we do or what we have, but what we are, and waking up to realize that is Bhakti Yoga. A realization that everything is the supreme consciousness, nothing else exists. It is the lively feeling of oneness with that spirit. It's hard to define Bhakti. One can feel it and realize it. With every breath, we sow the seeds of Bhakti. It is that love that sweeps us, that soars us and changes us forever, touching the deepest core of our existence. It is not about seeking that love, but dropping the barriers we have built within against it. It opens the door to eternity within us. It is the love that shines in our eyes as the light of our soul. It wakes us to realize that everything is a reflection of the divine. There are so many flavors of Bhakti. We have already seen this in a slightly different way, but the love towards the Lord has various expressions, you can say, or bhava. They are like Shanta Rasha. Rasha means the relationship with the Lord. The Shanta Rasha, there are 5 such rasas. Shanta Rasa, Dashya Rasha, Vatsalya Rasha, Sakya Rasha, and Madhurya or Kantya Rasha. So, what is Shantarasa? Shantarasa is where the devotee does not express himself or herself too much, but through dancing and singing, and who always remains calm and blissful. They come under the category of Shantarasa. Dashirasa. Dashirasa who serve the infinite Lord as his most faithful servant. Example is Hanumanji. Vatsalya Rasa, loving God like one's own child, like Yashodama. And Sakya Rasa, loving God like a friend, like Arjuna or Uddhava. They are shining examples of this Sakya Rasa. Madhurya or Kantya Rasa is the highest form of Bhakti, where Lord is one's lover, spouse, beloved. One achieves complete oneness with the beloved. Like how Radha is a very beautiful example here, displayed love, Meera or gopis of Vrindavan for the Lord. Hari Bol. So now let's see the topic of today, the path of devotion, bhakti. In bhakti, one can experience total freedom from the fear and worry. A devotee transcends worldly sorrows and pains. A pure devotee has no selfish desires, including the desire for liberation. Bhakti in one's heart is kindled by the grace of the Guru, by being in the company of the other devotees, and by reading and listening to the stories of bhaktas or devotees. So, this chapter begins with Arjuna asking the right questions to Sri Krishna about the two types of yogis, and among them, whom does he consider the most perfect? Those who worship formless Brahman, or those who are devoted to the personal form of the Lord? So Sri Krishna declares that devotees can attain him by both the ways, both the paths. However, he considers those who worship in personal form are the best of the yogis by dedicating all their actions to Sri Krishna, and with their mind and intellect continuously surrendered, they attain the Lord. Such souls swiftly get liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, Sri Krishna asks Arjuna to give up all the doubts and surrender his intellect with his mind fixed in loving devotion to the Lord alone. Also, Sri Krishna says such love for Lord does not come naturally to the struggling souls. Devotion is not some mysterious gift that one can buy or get. It requires consistent efforts to cultivate it. Sri Krishna tells Arjuna that if he is unable to absorb his mind in the Lord completely, then he should strive to do all his work with devotion to the Lord. And with constant practice, he will reach that perfection. If Arjuna cannot even do this, then he should work for the pleasure of Sri Krishna. And if he feels that even this is difficult, working for the pleasure of Krishna, then he should simply renounce the fruits of all his works and be situated only in the self. So Sri Krishna further explains that the cultivation of knowledge is higher than the mechanical practice, and meditation is higher than the knowledge. However, better than meditation is the renunciation of the fruits of action, because it immediately leads one to the greatest peace. So this chapter in Bhagavad Gita describes all the wonderful qualities of the Lord's loving devotees who are very, very dear to him. So let me just give you all in a quote form instead of reading all the verses in detail. So from verse 12.1 to 20 verses, what Arjuna inquired and what Sri Krishna responds. That's what we are going to see. In the 12.1, Arjuna inquired, between those who are steadfastly devoted to your personal form and those who worship the formless Brahman, who do you consider to be the most perfect in yoga? In the second verse, the blessed Lord says, those who fix their minds on me and always engage in my devotion with steadfast faith, I consider them to be the best yogis. This is the answer given by Krishna. And in the third and the fourth verse, Krishna says, but those who worship the formless aspect of the absolute truth, the imperishable, the indefinable, the unmanifest, the all-pervading, the unthinkable, the unchanging, the eternal, and the immovable, by restraining their senses and being even-minded everywhere, such persons engaged in the welfare of all beings also attain me. In the fifth verse, he says, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifest, the path of realization is full of tribulations. Worship of the unmanifest is exceedingly difficult for the embodied beings. In the sixth and seventh verse, he says, but those who dedicate all their actions to me, regarding me as the supreme goal, worshipping me and meditating on me with exclusive devotion, O Partha, I swiftly deliver them from the ocean of birth and death, for their consciousness is united with me. The eighth verse, he says, fix your mind on me alone and surrender to your intellect to me. Thereupon you will always live in me. Of this there is no doubt. Hari Bol. In the ninth verse, Krishna talks, if you are unable to fix your mind steadily on me, O Arjun, then practice remembering me with devotion while constantly restraining the mind from the worldly affairs. In the 10th verse, he says, if you cannot practice remembering me with devotion, then just try to work for me. Thus performing devotional service to me, you shall achieve the stage of perfection. In the 11th quote, the verse, Krishna talks, if you are unable to even work for me in devotion, then try to renounce the fruits of your action and be situated in the self. We already saw this in the discussion. The next 12th verse, he says, better than mechanical practice is knowledge. Better than knowledge is meditation. Better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For peace immediately follows such renunciation. And the 13th and 14th verse, Krishna talks in detail about those whose devotees are very dear to me, who are free from malice towards all the living beings, who are friendly and compassionate. They are free from attachment to possessions and egoism, equipoised in happiness and distress, and ever forgiving. They are ever contented, steadily united with me in devotion, self-controlled, firm in conviction, and dedicated to me in mind and intellect. The 15th quote verse, Krishna talks, those who are not a source of annoyance to anyone, and who in turn are not agitated by anyone, who are equal in pleasure and pain, and free from fear and anxiety, such devotees of mine are very dear to me. The 16th verse, Krishna talks, those who are indifferent to worldly gain, externally and internally pure, skillful, without cares, untroubled, and free from selfishness in all undertakings, such devotees of mine are very dear to me. The 17th verse, Krishna talks, those who neither rejoice in mundane pleasures, nor despair in worldly sorrows, who neither lament for any loss or hanker for any gain, who renounce both good and evil deeds, such persons who are full of devotion are very dear to me. The 19th verse in detail again, Krishna says, those who are alike to friend and foe, equipoised in honor and dishonor, cold and heat, joy and sorrow, are free from all unfavorable association, those who take praise and reproach alike, who are given to silent contemplation, content with what comes their way, without attachment to the place of residence, whose intellect is firmly fixed in me, and who are full of devotion to me, such persons are very, very dear to me. Last and the final verse, in 20 verse, Krishna says, those who honor this nectar of wisdom declared here, have faith in me, and are devoted and intent on me as the supreme goal, they are exceedingly dear to me. Hari Bol. Hope you enjoyed these lovely, lovely quotes given in the Holy Bhagavad Gita, in the Yoga of Devotion, Bhakti Yoga. Very beautifully given, right, about the wonderful qualities of God's loving devotees. Right, hence I would like to conclude Bhakti Yoga is the best yoga, yoga of devotion and higher emotions. This yoga is basically 3 steps: love, devotion and surrender. So what we have to do, first we learn to love Lord, love the God, then we devote ourselves to God's will as best as we can, and we live our lives in service to the Lord. Finally, we surrender our finite existence into the very breath of the Lord. This surrender is our realization of the oneness between the Lord and the man. But without Guru's grace, these 3 qualities are impossible to develop. So in Bhakti Yoga, my dear friends and devotees, I would like to conclude by saying we cultivate these emotions into divine emotions. This is achieved how? Through the cultivation of sincerity, simplicity, purity and gratitude. These feelings prepare the soil of our existence so that we may grow from our very human roots, the God becoming tree with its 3 most important branches, vast branches: love, devotion and surrender. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Catch you all with another beautiful Krishna Katha and motivational video. Until then, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Please give in your valuable likes and comments and support me as you're doing till date. Thank you all for your kind support and encouragement. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.